Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Aisha Mubenga, and welcome to my podcast, a space where I give voice to my thoughts and writings. Here we talk about faith, mental health, self growth, and the shared struggles and victories that remind us we're never alone in this journey of dunya. Tune in and walk with me through reflections of the heart. Let's get into it. So I recently went to Pretoria, right? I went twice, and the area that I went in was an area where there was hardly any Muslim. I literally counted four Muslims, and none of them were wearing the niqab. They was just, wearing the hijab. And so most of the times I was the only niqabi around the area, and it seemed as though it was really strange for them to see somebody that is in niqab and so on. And it made me so uncomfortable. I'm usually so confident in my niqab and in my hijab and so on because I mean in Durban there is so many Muslims, right? There's so many Muslims. I mean, you'll walk a few minutes and you'll see a Muslim, you'll see a hijabi, you'll see a niqabi. So I got used to that. And when I went there, I was so uncomfortable. Like, I was so uncomfortable. I started feeling like I'm making other people uncomfortable. And it felt like everybody was just staring into my soul. And this made me think back to the days where I started wearing my hijab and my niqab and so on, and the struggles that I faced. It was a very weird experience, but also a really humbling experience. To be grateful for living in Durban and having so many Muslims around you and so on, and not feeling really, stared at, if for lack of better word. But also, it reminded me of my humble beginnings. Literally, it felt so weird. Yeah. So in this episode, I wanted to share, this because it's something that is real to me. Um, Obviously, it's not a polished story or perfect ending or whatever. Um, it's just the kind we whisper to ourselves but barely say out loud. It's the things, the thoughts, the feelings that we whisper to ourselves and we don't say loud, as hijabis, as niqabis as well. You know, my journey with the hijab, because I first started off as a hijabi and then later uh, went into niqab. So when I started wearing my hijab, it was not as easy as being in the niqab. I mean, a friend approached me, gave me advice, and I made dua about it, and everything was just smoothly. I loved being a hijabi and so on. I think my real struggle was being a niqabi. It has been a struggle, still is, surprisingly. Sometimes you get those thoughts of, am I going to get a job doing this? How are people looking at me? And how are people thinking of me? Sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm so young, I'm pretty, and you're hiding your face and so on. So for me, the niqab was really the challenging one for me, not necessarily the hijab. Alhamdulillah, right? So my journey with the hijab and later on with the niqab, they were not smooth, especially the niqab. They were not glamorous as I thought they would be, and they were definitely um, they didn't feel like those inspirational posts we see online about hijab and about niqab. When I first put on the hijab, I thought it would be simple, right? I thought the fight would be external, like you know how people stay and society judging, family judging. The auntie is telling you how you won't get married. The auntie is telling you, being weird with you when you're going out and so on. I thought it would be those external things, strangers whispering. I remember once we went out and there was a table opposite of us, a group of women who like just kept staring at me as I ate in my niqab. But very quickly I realized that the biggest battles was inside me. It was the battles that I fought within myself. Literally a tag of war between who I was, who I wanted to be, and who Allah was inviting me to become. There were days I felt so proud of being a niqabi or a hijabi. There were days where I walked with my head held up high. There were days I felt super strong and confident in my hijab and my niqab. And there were days I looked in the mirror and I saw a woman who was growing spiritually step by step. But there were also days I felt really, really exposed. Like I felt like people were staring right through my soul. Days I was really tired, felt like I wasn't good enough for this cloth I was carrying or wearing. And the world around me didn't make it any easier, to be quite honest. And the irony is, yes, the world around me, like, people who are not Muslims and so on, but Muslims themselves made it very, very difficult for me because I remember once straight out of high school, I just started wearing my niqab and so on. And I was desperate. I needed a job, and I went to this Muslim shop, and they straight up told me, "Look, we want to employ you, but we cannot employ you with the niqab on." And I remember having to remove it at work, and then after work, I would put it back on, right? So that experience in itself was very, very discouraging. Um, it was so uncomfortable for me, and I kind of felt like a hypocrite. But honestly, I was desperate for a job and so on. So we don't just have to fight with the outsiders, but even within Islam, we still have to fight as hijabis, as niqabis, especially as niqabis. Um, you know, um, the more you know, the moment you wear your hijab, honestly, you you become visible, right? You become a symbol of Islam, whether you like it or not. Let's just get that straight. And that visibility comes with, it comes with its beauty. I will not lie. There are situations like when once I took a taxi and I could just see the respect that I was being given from the males and everyone and everything. Um, you could just tell there was a difference from before I started wearing my hijab and afterwards. Um, Nobody was whistling at me and so on. So that visibility comes with its own beauties, but also it comes with its own weight and its own hardship, right? So, I went into the niqab after the hijab journey. um, and subhanallah, that was another level of struggle. I really feel for niqabis and I really admire them at the same time because I've struggled immensely with the niqab. Like there are so many times where I've removed the niqab honestly, and subhanallah, that was another level of struggle. I won't lie. Um, it was a deeper act of surrender, like a louder statement in a world already loud enough, honestly. I didn't wake up one day suddenly perfect and ready. I wasn't, you know, floating on spiritual high. I was simply trying to take one more step closer to Allah, even with trembling feet. I remember I was such an extremist. Oh, before that, I used to say I will never ever wear the niqab. The niqab is for extremists and so on. I was so against the niqab until a friend went into a niqab, and I sat down with her and I asked her why and so on. Initially, I started wearing the niqab because um, I felt like, it will protect me. It will protect me from the male gaze. It will protect me from people with sick minds and so on. Right. So I went into the niqab. Oh, it was a struggle. I won't lie. It was really, really a struggle. And I want to tell you this with absolute honesty, right? Even the best of us struggle. I know we look all, we've been in niqab for more than 11 years and it looks like it's smooth. You see the pictures on social medias, proper hijab, proper niqab. Even the best of us struggle. Even the women you admire struggle. Even those who look put together, confident, unshakable, bruh, they've been shaken to the core. Even those who wear their hijab with elegance, or their hijab with grace, we all struggle. I personally have struggled, and I'm literally making this recording this podcast because I'm literally in that period where it's so hard for me to be in the niqab, and I'm literally having thoughts of, should I remove it, should I keep it, should I, you know and I'm literally just making dua to Allah that He helps me through this, because as much as it's difficult, I really, really, really love it. Right. So we all struggle, every single one of us. Some of us are just better at hiding it. Some of us have learned how to put our pain into poetry. Some of us have learned how to smile through the fear, through the judgments. But the struggle is there. It always has been there, and that does not make you weak. It does not make me weak. It does not make my iman as a Muslim weak. It just makes me and you human. Right? It makes us human. I always go back to the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He created men weak in flesh. Right? So we were never meant to be superheroes and um, these perfect people or whatever. No, Allah knows that He created us weak, and that's why He's promised that whenever we go back to Him, whenever we return home, He will always have His doors open for us. So if you are a sister who wears the hijab and feels overwhelmed, or a sister who wears the niqab and feels isolated and feel like people are staring into your soul, like I feel often, or a sister who wants to begin but doesn't know how, please come here to the front seat and hear me out. You are not alone. You know, there is many of us struggling. Your struggle doesn't disqualify you. I know people have this tendency of literally making you feel like you have betrayed the whole ummah because your hijab is not on properly, or you haven't started wearing your hijab, or you were in your hijab and you removed your hijab and whatever. You know, um, struggling with your hijab, your niqab does not disqualify you as a Muslim or anything like that. No, we all go through it and so on. Your doubts does not erase your sincerity, right? Your doubts does not erase your sincerity. Your difficult days does not cancel your good ones, right? And the fact that you are trying, that you are even thinking about pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you are carrying a symbol of Islam on your body, on your head, despite everything, that is huge. That is honor. That is honorable. That is noble. And Allah sees every effort, and Allah sees every single moment of it. We don't wear the hijab or the niqab because we are perfect. We wear it because we are trying to be better. We wear it because we want Allah to be proud of us, even when we are not proud of ourselves. We wear it because somewhere in our heart there is a flame that refuses to go out, a flame that knows Allah deserves our struggle. So, to every sister listening, if your journey feels heavy, remember mine was heavy too. Many of our journeys have been heavy and really hard as well. But heaviness is not a sign to stop. Struggling is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you are carrying something really valuable, right? And honestly, it's easy for the brothers to say the sisters don't wear the hijab properly, or the sisters are not wearing the hijab properly, and so on. I mean, they can go out in a jean and a t-shirt, shave off all their beards, and blend in with society, and call themselves more, you know, and blend in with society, while we, the Muslim women, have to literally carry the deen on our heads. We are literally the symbol, the visual symbol of Islam. And for me, whenever I think about that, I think um, it really gives me that boost, and it also helps me like, push out whatever nonsense anybody is saying about my hijab or my niqab, or the way I wear it, or the way I choose to wear it, and so on. Because at the end of the day, it's easy for a brother to point out what you're not doing when they've never been in our shoes before. So, my dear sisters, your struggle, we are all in it together. We are all struggling. Um, and, Allah sees it, Allah will reward for it. Um, I really pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this hijab journey, uh, make it a light and not a burden for us, right? I pray that He makes our niqab a source of honor, not fear, and may He accept every trembling step we take towards Him. And honestly, just take it easy. Take it easy. I remember when I started wearing even the hijab, yes, it wasn't a struggle for me, but I started off wearing just the hijab with my jean and my tops, and then I transitioned to wearing skirts, and then from skirts I transitioned into wearing dresses, and then from there I started wearing the niqab. And at the beginning of wearing the niqab, I was such an extremist. Like, you would not tell me nothing about wearing colors. I was like, no, you need to wear a burqa, you need to wear an abaya, you need to wear, like, you're a niqabi, da, 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 da. I was so hard on myself, and I think that's why I struggled so much with the niqab, because I was so hard on myself. Everything was no, no, no. And I was a person who's a creative person. I love colors, and I love expressing myself and so on. So it was really, really hard for me because I literally restricted myself so much, right? But then as I started learning more about the niqab and so on, I started relaxing a bit. I started exploring different colors, different styles, and so on. I made it my own, and so on. And it got a bit easy. Yes, there were still struggles, but it got a bit easier for me. So take your time, take your steps, make dua with, like, make dua and ask Allah to make it easy for you. Um, you know, don't be too hard on yourself and don't jump too fast into it. It's a journey, it's a process, and inshallah, you will get there. And even if you find yourself like you feel like, oh, you know, you step back a bit, maybe one step back, it's okay. You can always get back. You can always find your way again. It's not uh, it's not uh, it's not like you're gonna die or anything like that. So yeah, I just really wanted to share this because it's something I wanted to think back to the time where I started. Like, they say when you get lost and when you get confused, and you want to give up on something that you've been doing that you really loved and whatever, then you think about why you started the thing in the first place. And so this podcast today is basically me going back to the reason why I started wearing the niqab again and just thinking about the journey and how far I've basically come. Because I feel like sometimes we really, really forget the amount of work we've put in, the amount of sacrifices we've put in just because someone, threw us a stupid remark and all of a sudden everything just crumbles. So, yeah, sisters, inshallah, if you have your hijab journey that you would like to share and we can feature it in the next episode, please feel free to share in the comment sections and so on. It will be so beautiful for other sisters to hear and to see that, they are not alone in their struggles and so on. With that being said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Until next time.
I ask Muslims, why do women cover their hair? And maybe one out of 99 gives the right answer. Now, if Muslims don't know why women wear this scarf, how do we expect non-Muslims to understand? Seriously. The Quran itself says why we cover our hair. What does the Quran say? To identify ourselves as being Muslim. That's number one, that we would be recognized. We put this on. This is an act of truthfulness, all right? So that everybody will know that we are Muslim women. We want everyone to know that we are Muslim women. We are proud of being Muslim women. But then this says a lot too. See, what this tells everyone who sees me is what stands before you is a woman of enormous strength, enormous courage and integrity. This woman will not lie. She will not cheat. She will not deceive. She will be the best employer, the best employee, the best friend, the best advisor, the best counselor. That's a Muslim woman. You can trust her. And it's a warning. Oh, yeah. It looks up here and it tells to everybody what stands before you is a woman who knows her worth. She knows her value. She is not a toy. So don't